Thank you, Bishop. Good evening and welcome to what I call the entertainment portion of our programming, also known as the Synod's budget proposal. I'm Joe Stepansky, treasurer of the Lower Susquehanna Synod, and I'm probably off somewhere helping count votes, so I'll discuss the Synod's proposed 2026-27 fiscal year budget through this video. First, I'd like to thank Bishop Dunlop for his work in putting these budgets together every year. He devotes a great amount of time and effort into taking Synod mission priorities and putting them into a budget. Were I to ask him about what it's like putting these budgets together, his response might be something like this.
It is an up at dawn, pride-swallowing siege.
Okay, I get it. But how mad can the bishop get? He's being played by Tom Cruise. Look, I have limited time and you're here for more important issues, so here's the bottom line. We're proposing a $50,000 deficit for the next fiscal year. Yes, that's a big deficit number, as was the deficit in this year's budget. I'll talk more about how we can afford to do that a little later. But this is also a placeholder budget. Why? Because there are many unanswered questions. Who will be the next bishop? What kind of staff will they want? What will their mission priorities be? The answer to these questions is always the same.
Nobody knows.
So it's entirely possible a new bishop may want to adopt a different spending proposal, one that will have to be approved by Synod Council. Now let's get to the budget summary. I'll start with the income section and then move on to expenses. All comparisons will be against the current 2025-26 spending plan. The first item is mission support from congregations, which we believe will continue its long-term decline. It's our best guess given the current trend. Whatever the amount turns out to be, we'll work with it. Under Legacy Fund grants, the funds from youth and young adult programs will be released from the temporarily restricted Synod Program Fund rather than the operating budget. I know, exciting, right? These funds were raised several years ago from a special appeal and appear on the next line. Support from other sources. Registration for events will be down significantly because the 2026 Synod Assembly will be 2 days rather than 3. No call of the bishop next year. The direction of future interest rates is subject to considerable uncertainty, so we're keeping that the same as this year's plan. Finally, we expect direct gifts to remain pretty much the same. Now we move to expenses. I'll put more emphasis on the larger expenses and less on those that remain the same. Please know that you can ask whatever you like about the budgeted expenses. First grouping is external ministry support. For ELCA churchwide ministries, we send 31% of our mission support to churchwide. If we get less mission support, we send less to churchwide. Next, we expect the administration expenses for Region 8, to which our synod belongs, to decrease next year. Grants for the seminary are also based on the mission support we receive. When the synod gets less, these programs get less. Everything else in external ministry support remains the same for fiscal 2026-27. The next grouping is programmatic ministry. Everything here stays pretty much the same versus this year, except for assembly planning. We expect assembly planning expenses to decrease significantly due to the 2026 assembly expected to span 2 days rather than 3. Again, no call of the bishop. We're planning to spend less for meals, lodging, and other expenses related to a shorter assembly. Evangelism and mission will have a slight decrease due to the expected decrease in mission support. The final group is general operations, which is also the largest expense group. And by the way, thanks for hanging in there with me. Synod Council, office operating, occupancy, Synod staff travel, and development will all remain roughly the same versus the 2025-26 spending plan. Office operations will decrease slightly, mainly due to our budgeting for future expected insurance costs. Human resources expenses will decrease by about 3.4%. This may be the most speculative area of the budget, since we don't know what the future staff will look like. But we're pretty sure it will be a smaller staff than we have currently. And that staff isn't very large to begin with. Let me tell you how big the staff is. To remind you, the Synod staff consists of 4 officers, only one of whom, the bishop, is employed by the Synod. The other 3 officers are considered volunteers. Then there are currently 7 bishop's assistants and 4 support staff, for a total of 12 Synod employees. That's it. And it's a staff that's done an outstanding job controlling expenses. But the staff will no doubt be smaller in future years. Finally, there won't be a bishop transition next year, so we've eliminated the transition expense. So that's the proposed budget for fiscal 2026-27. I mentioned earlier that I would explain how we can afford this. Forgive me, but I'm going to throw some numbers at you. We ended the 2024-25 fiscal year with operating fund net assets of about $306,000. That is an audited number. You can look at that as a form of savings. Even if we reach the budgeted $90,000 deficit this year, and we're currently forecasting a slightly lower deficit, and an additional $50,000 deficit in 2026-27, we'll still have over $166,000 in operating net assets or savings. Our goal was to have $100,000 in operational net assets, so we'll still be well ahead of that goal. And with all those terms, see what I mean about the entertainment portion of our programming? Are you not entertained? Okay, you've no doubt had enough budget talk for one evening. I encourage you to read my report where I explain in greater detail with charts how we're funding this. Yes, we know we can't keep running these deficits, but we currently have the operating fund assets to absorb them for now. Let me emphasize again that this is a budget that assumes continuity, but we know our synod will change. The bishop we call at this assembly will have a significant role in determining actual budget priorities. Again, feel free to ask any questions you have about the budget. Thank you for your support and attention.